Hey, this is Tom from MVP Chess. Welcome back to my series on Bobby Fischer's seminal work, My 60 Memorable Games. In this video, we'll be analyzing game number 53 that Fischer played versus Lajos Portisch in Santa Monica in 1966. Before we jump in, don't forget to smash that subscribe button and join Team MVP. Thanks so much for your support. So Lajos Portisch he's still alive at 87 years old, a Hungarian grandmaster who, quite simply, was one of the greatest chess players to ever play. He has won the Hungarian Chess Championship 9 times, competed in the World Championship cycle 8 times, and peaked at number 2 in the world. Wow, what a player. So, in this encounter, Portisch with the white pieces, Fischer with black. Portisch goes for d4, and Fischer says here that he felt that Portisch was too well versed for his King's Indian. He wanted to mix things up, and that's why he played pawn to e6. And after knight c3, we have bishop b4, the Nimzo-Indian Defense. So Fischer actually employed this opening with black in game 1 of his World Chess Championship match versus Spassky in Reykjavik 72. So Fischer clearly had a lot of respect for this opening, but was, of course, a diehard King's Indian player. So we have e3, b6. So Fischer looking to develop the light-squared bishop, either into a fianchetto position or, as we'll see in the game, to a6. Knight e2. So this breaks the coordination of the light-squared bishop and this pawn on c4, so that's why Fischer attacks it immediately. And Portisch brings the knight to g3. The knight's kind of misplaced here on g3, but it does help white try to get in this key advance e4. That's really what the Nimzo-Indian Defense is all about. Why black brings the bishop to b4 is to control the e4 square indirectly by pinning this knight. So this is more of a hyper-modern approach instead of the classic Queen's Gambit declined where you're preventing e4 directly by putting a pawn on d5. So Fischer captures here on c3, mindful that he doesn't want to allow white to get e4 under good circumstances, captures this knight and puts his own pawn on d5. So very logical here from Fischer. Now, Portisch plays queen f3, and he's really just trying to play pawn to e4 at all costs. Okay, so there's not much Fischer can do about that. So he castles and meets e4 by capturing. And here we have a real fork in the road, so to speak, in this game. Fischer could play the knight to d7, maybe reroute it to f6, and try to undermine white's center with pawn to c5. But in that position, white would have the 2 bishops, good development. Sure, Portisch would have these potentially weak pawns on the queen side, but the 2 bishops, the great development, certainly compensate for that. So Fischer looked for more. And that's why he played queen d7, trying to provoke Portisch into taking this rook on a8. Okay, so let's see Fischer's idea. First, Portisch develops his bishops with a gain of tempo. First, hitting this rook on f8, which Fischer moves, and then developing a light square bishop, gaining a tempo on this pawn on h7. So that's why Fischer in this position played pawn to f5, attacking the queen and blocking this attack. So what to do for Portisch? He could retreat the queen. Fischer thought that was best, but he wanted to shake things up, imbalance the game, and try to play for a win. That's why he grabbed the rook on a8. So what was Fischer's idea here? Okay, of course, Fischer realized that he could play knight c6 in this position, preventing the queen from escaping, and Portisch would have to give Her Majesty up for the other rook. So this is the imbalance that we have. Okay, Fischer with the queen, Portisch with the 2 rooks. Generally, the 2 rooks outperform the queen. They are, after all, worth 10 points, whereas the queen's only worth 9. But it really depends on the position. And here, Fischer does have a lot of pawn weaknesses that he can attack. So Portisch castles, and Fischer plays a very instructive move for any Nimzo-Indian player, knight to a5. Okay, focusing on this doubled weak pawn. It's very common for black to bring the bishop to a6, the knight to a5, and win the c4 pawn. Portisch would like to maybe play c5 in this position and try to liquidate this weakness, but unfortunately his bishop on d3 would be hanging. So he just continues with simple development, bringing the rook into the game, and Fischer grabs on c4, winning a tempo on the bishop to boot, and plays pawn to c5. So Fischer's idea now is to strike at the center, to try to undermine the defense of the e5 square and push his 4v3 kingside pawn majority. So Portisch takes, but of course he anticipates Fischer's plan. He doesn't allow him to play e5. That would be a dumpster fire. He played bishop f4, taking this key square under control. We have pawn to h6. So Fischer not gaining luft for his king here. He already has luft available on the f7 square. This is really to prepare the advance g5 and then later f4 and try to push forward on the king side. So Portisch doubles on the e file, like so. Fischer activates the king and continues pushing forward on the king side. We have king h2, a6. So Fischer just getting his queen side pieces off the dark squares where they're safe. We have rook e4, putting pressure on Fischer's really nice outposted knight on c4. That's why Fischer plays queen d5. Nice centralizing move with the queen, which also defends the knight. And it was in this position that Portisch made a mistake. He played pawn to h4, and now Fischer completely has a winning position. But I'll turn it over to you to find the winning move. Pause your videos. What move did Fischer find in this position to put the game away? Have a think. So congratulations if you found knight e3, a great idea from Fischer. Okay, breaking the coordination of these rooks. Notice this rook on e4 is now on prise. This rook cannot move from its post on the e4 square because Fischer would just be able to give mate on g2. So that's why Portisch had to give up the exchange. But now Fischer gets a pawn to boot and has a completely winning endgame. This is much clearer. The queen versus the rook and bishop is just much, much better. And to boot, Fischer also has an extra pawn to work with. So we have rook f3. Portisch giving some spite checks here, but his activity is really just an illusion. Fischer brings the queen back in, also targeting this pawn on h4. That's why Portisch exchanged it off. Gives a check, but it's just bringing Fischer's king to where it wants to be, on the queen side. And after rook a8, king c6, Portisch resigned in this position. Of course, Fischer has the very simple plan of just pushing this extra past a pawn down the board and making new queen. He also has to contend with some threats to the king and potentially loose pieces. So totally understandable why Portisch decided to resign in this position. So I hope you enjoyed the analysis of Fischer's win in the Nimzo-Indian. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button and join Team MVP. You're not going to want to miss my next installment, which will be game number 54. We are getting so close to the end. Thank you so much for watching and all your support. I'll see you next time. Have a great rest of your day.